Today's conversation is with a woman who understands what it means to build something before there's proof and to keep going long after the excitement wears off. She's the founder of FEMI Magazine, a media platform whose name means Love Me and whose work reflects that intention through stories rooted in reflection, representation, and purpose. Through her work, she's created space for women to be seen, heard, and reflected back to themselves, not just at their best, but in their becoming. What stood out in this conversation wasn't just what she's built, but how she's built it, how she's learned to trust conviction over clarity, how she's navigated pressure, discernment, and the quiet cost of staying committed to a vision when the path wasn't obvious. This episode isn't about success for success's sake. It's about faith before certainty, meaning over momentum, and the restraint it takes to build something that lasts. This is a conversation about leadership, purpose, and knowing when to keep going, even when the outlook looks unclear. I'm Arnitris L. Strong, and this is Executive Lessons in Love. Please welcome Tanisha Davis.
Lessons, lessons in love.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to
Good morning.
Executive Lessons in Love. I'm here today with Tanisha D. Davis. She's the founder of FEMI Magazine. Thank you for sitting down with me, Tanisha.
Thank you for inviting me to be here.
So I wanted to pause just before we stopped and acknowledge that you were the first. FEMI Magazine was the first feature for Executive Lessons in Love. And I want to thank you again for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for being on my platform. I'm always happy when everyone, is on the platform. It just makes me feel good inside. So thank you for being a part of it.
Absolutely. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. But before we jump into the work, I do want to ask you, how are you doing today? Not as a founder, not as a brand, but as a woman who is sitting down to talk.
Um, as a Black woman,
Mhm.
life has been overwhelming, especially by the things we see in the media.
Right.
This recent issue with, I guess,
Yeah.
towards our past president and first lady. It's stressful being a Black woman in America, I will say that.
For people who may be new to you or to FEMI, how do you usually describe what you do in your own words?
Um, I always just tell people I write about a lot of cool people. I get the pleasure
Well, that's
to
a good
write about a
description.
lot of cool people. Yeah, like that's something I don't know, I just be like, I'm just a writer. I just meet a lot of dope people.
All right. Not just a writer. Take that right just off. You're a writer. But I always like to start here because it sets the tone. Because, why you laughing?
Oh, it's probably because I get told that often, like, just,
Well,
own it. Don't humble it down. Just own
absolutely.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to start there with how you describe what you do in your own words because it sets the tone. Because I understand this work didn't start as a brand, it started as something personal. So it sounds like
Yes.
what you just wanted to write. So I wanted to honor that. So take me back to before FEMI was a magazine, before the platform, before the audience. What was happening in you at that time?
Before Femi existed, I was a blogger. I had my own blog site. It was called Stardom 100 Blog. And it was a relationship blog. So I would write on different relationships and issues because at that time, I myself was dealing with a domestic situation. And I created it as a way to kind of vent and share what I was experiencing. It turned out to be something bigger because so many people were relating with the things I was talking about. It started getting celebrity attention because I would post my articles to Twitter. After that, it turned into a radio show, which was like a podcast in 2015. And that opened doors for me to later start writing for like the Jasmine brand, Attention with the Shade Room. I got attention sending coverage to them. from the Shade Room. I also got on to write for two other major publications, which is Control Magazine and Sheen Magazine. And I stayed with Sheen for some years. I love Sheen, but it was time for me to step out into my own light. You know, God had a calling on me since 2016. I had a friend that had told me, you know, I see you doing a magazine back in 2016. I was like, no, I'm good. You know, I liked where I was at the time. So I was like, I'm good. But I stepped out on faith during COVID in 2020, and there comes FEMI.
All right. Sounds like you were fighting your purpose there for a minute or your calling for a minute, but it was
Yeah.
already in you. So how did you recognize that it was already in you?
I started writing when I was 13. I would write. I had like a composition notebook, and I would like make up stories, like short stories, and I would include my friends that were in class with me, and I would add them to the story. They'd be like, "Oh, who am I gonna be in the story?" And I just write these stories. And it was so crazy because it would get passed around the school. Like
Oh,
my
wow.
compositions would make it, they'd be like, read this story, read what Tanisha wrote. You know, this character is me. And so I always loved to write. I also wrote poetry. And in middle school, we had like a little TV thing where we did our announcements on, and I would get on there and do poetry readings in the morning before class started. So it's always been a part of me since I was a child.
Then what told you that it wasn't just an idea, but an assignment?
I think honestly, when I started writing with, I want to say I started taking it serious when I started writing for Control Magazine. That's when it was like, you know what, Tanisha, like this is really your calling. This is really what you've been called to do. Like it's more than just, you know, the blog. When I was just blogging and just sharing stories, I literally started feeling like this is where God wants you to be. And when I was younger, I read books by Omar Tyree, and my favorite book was Fly Girl. And the character at some point, she's like the editor of a magazine, and I'd be like, "Oh, be just like Fly Girl, be just like that." And so it was like that tug always in the background, like this is something you really love and you need to perfect it and you need to become the best at it.
So when you look back at that early version of yourself, what was she holding on to that helped her to move forward?
Well, the early version of Tanisha grew up in and out of foster care. And during those times when you're going from home to home to home, you're silent. You're not using your voice because, you know, you just like, I don't have a say so in anything. You know, everybody's just telling you what they're about to do with you in your life. So you're silent. And so my writing gave space for my voice to be heard. It was like an opportunity that now people can hear me. I don't have to shelter myself in. I don't have to hide myself. Now I can step out and let my voice be heard.
So there's usually a moment when something stops feeling theoretical and starts feeling real. When did that shift happen for you?
I would say the moment everything really was like kicked in for me was at a photo shoot with Control Magazine. When I went for my first interview to write, they had I cannot think of his name right now. I don't know why my mind goes blank, but it's one of the Maori sisters' husbands. I can't think
Oh,
of his name right now.
Corey,
Was
Corey Hedrick.
Corey. Yes, Corey has. So he was doing a photo shoot for them, for one of the covers, and I got the opportunity. Julian at the time he offered for me to go interview him on the spot, and I was like, and I'm watching. It was just surreal for me to even see this guy. You know, he's getting makeup there, he's getting everything ready for a photo shoot, and I'm being offered the chance to go speak to him and interview him. I was just like, in that moment, I was like, nah, I'm not ready to do it, but reality hit like Tanisha, this is where you at now, you know? And that was a really big moment for me.
I can imagine the planner in me would just be freaking out because I gotta plan everything
Yeah.
out, have
Me
all the
too.
questions. So that just being on the spot, that probably would have
Yeah.
really thrown me for a loop too. But I'm sure it went well. And I guess the best interviews are really just conversations. They're not so
Mhm.
so planned out, so thoughtfully. So I'm glad that you
Yeah.
stepped up to the plate. So what changed
Yeah.
internally when people began expecting something from you? Not just creatively, but consistently. Because once you put it out there to the world, I'm sure that when you started
Mhm.
your blog, it's like, okay, now the people are paying attention. So
Yeah.
now they're expecting it. What had to change in you to keep that up?
I would say I had to be more serious
Mm.
because I can be goofy. Like, I can be real silly. I can be very talkative. And I had to kind of like just watch what I said, especially when it got to Twitter, because in the early days of Twitter, I was still trying to learn how to maneuver on Twitter. So I probably was just tweeting away, not really paying attention to the fact that everything you put out there,
It's out there.
everybody sees it.
Right.
So I had to like really like tone it down. Like, okay, Tanisha, watch what you say, watch what you post, be a little bit more professional about about your delivery so it doesn't come off the wrong way. So that part I got to get more
You had to
serious.
rein
Yeah.
yourself in and just be really cognizant of what you were saying. I guess
Right.
because at that time you were realizing that it was becoming a brand. Everything that you
Mhm.
said was a reflection of the brand. That makes
Right.
sense. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you navigate making decisions when the vision was clear but the outcome wasn't?
Um, thank God for some really cool people in my circle that even like Ben is one of them. He's with Urban Magazine. Whenever things got tricky, God just blessed me to have some people that I could just pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, is this a smart move? Is
Mhm.
this the best way to handle this decision?" Because like people like I use Ben for example. Ben's been in the game since back when he was writing for the Source, and he's been in that since the early '90s, and so I know he's seen a lot. And he's just one of those people that I go to as well to ask. I have some music producers that I'm close with. So when I'm dealing with artists or anything for interviews, I can just reach out and say, hey, what's the best way to handle this situation? So just thank God for like having a circle really to go to because we don't know it all.
I want to talk a little bit about the part that people don't always see. Can you share a
Mhm.
season where you were given a lot and began to feel the cost of that?
The things that a lot of people don't see when you're running a business is the stress, the
Mhm.
emotional times when the finances are not, lining up like they should. And you're just in that place where you're like, okay, how am I going to do this? One of those situations happened when I started out. I would pay someone to do the design, the layouts for my print issues. And it was starting, the cover art was designed by one person, the layout was designed by somebody else. And it was getting very expensive. And I had to maneuver. So I was like, you know what, Tanisha, we got to figure something out because if we don't get this under control, how are we going to continue to print? So from there, I had to teach myself. I had to teach myself, sit down. I'm on YouTube University.
Mhm.
I'm learning how to do layouts for a magazine, how to prepare for print and everything. So that's the other side.
It's a lot. I can definitely relate, and I'm having some
Yeah.
flashbacks to those sleepless nights of learning, InDesign and Photoshop and all of that
Mhm.
stuff, and it's not it's definitely a learning curve,
It's
and,
very
I
stressful.
think it is but I think it's important as a business owner, even when you have the money to be able to pay someone to have a basic knowledge of those programs if something
Mhm.
happens and you have
Right.
to jump in. So
Right.
what helped you recognize, when your effort wasn't being matched or when something that once felt aligned started to feel heavy?
I would say, hmm. So ask me the question again. I want to make sure I
Mhm.
answer it the best way.
What helped you recognize when your effort wasn't being matched or when something that once felt aligned started to feel heavy?
When we initially started the magazine, I had a group with me that was helping me out. I had a photographer, I had like the whole team. So we
Mhm.
could get out and do photo shoots. We were back and forth from Atlanta to LA doing photo shoots. It was it was more so I'm trying to find the best words to say this. Sometimes when you're over things and you put people in positions, sometimes people like to try to take over instead of doing their part. They try
Mm-hmm.
to take over. So I had a situation like that where the person just ended up just departing from the brand. And it was tough. It was very hard because I was like, okay, how am I going to do a magazine and I don't have a photographer? I don't have this team, my makeup team, my stylist team. Like, how am I going to continue to do this? But it was just really a faith walk. That was the moment where God was like, okay, are you going to put all your faith in man or are you going to trust me? Because if I put this in you to do this, then I've already made a way for you. So that was a really tough season. I almost thought that was the end of FEMI.
Yeah, I can understand that panic that sets in, but I think
Mm,
that, like you said, a faith walk because you don't know how it's gonna pan out, and you just have to keep
yeah,
walking and keep trusting that this thing that God placed in you, that He's gonna give you all of the provision that you need to make it come through.
right,
In those
right.
moments, what did you learn about yourself that you didn't know before?
That I have what it takes. Like that I know how to maneuver through the roughest waves. Sometimes we're like we reach a brick wall and we're like, that's it. Like, what am I gonna do? I'm at a brick wall. But
Yeah,
then we forget that we know how to climb, we know how to jump. you know,
right.
you might need to dig, you may need to knock some bricks down.
Yeah,
So it just showed me that hey, you can always overcome these obstacles. Just keep going or figure out another way around it.
right. Sounds
Yeah.
good. That's those words are words to live by for sure. So
Yes.
let's light it up for a moment. I'm going to name a scenario, and you tell me whether
Okay.
you press, move forward, or pull, pause, and hold back. So press or
Okay.
pull. So you don't have to do
All
any
right.
explaining unless you want to.
Let's play. Press or pull.
So the
Okay.
first scenario, launching something before you feel completely ready. Press or pull.
Ooh, press.
Press.
Press forward.
All right.
Yes.
Saying yes to visibility when you're exhausted.
Pull. No.
Pausing a project that no longer feels aligned.
Yeah, pull.
Pull.
Yeah, if you don't feel aligned with it, I don't know if I'm supposed to say pull or press on that, but if you don't feel like aligned with something, it doesn't represent what you stand for, don't do it.
Absolutely. Being the face of a brand versus staying behind the scenes.
I like behind the scenes. I'm a behind the scenes
I
person.
can see that.
So for me, I don't know if I'm supposed to say press for that, but I just like to be behind the scenes. So, because sometimes you don't always have to be the face of your brand.
Yeah.
It's okay to let other people shine, unless you're Oprah Winfrey, because
I know. She's been
she's
on every
look,
cover, right?
she on every cover. I
Every
thought about
cover.
that one time, but I was like, nah,
Yeah. Releasing a story that feels risky.
no, pull,
Cool.
don't do it. If
Protecting
you
the
having
brand.
second thoughts,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. If you're having second thoughts, then definitely pull. Protecting the brand, even if it disappoints people.
Yeah, press, because sometimes in this business, you got to be like, can't always worry about how people feel or their feelings. Sometimes you
At the
just got
end
to
of
do
the
your
day,
thing.
it's a reflection of you. Absolutely.
Right,
Speaking up
right.
when staying quiet would be easier.
In media, sometimes it's risky, but you got to speak up sometimes.
I can
Sometimes you have
imagine it
got to
may
use your
kind
voice.
of damage some relationships or
Yeah.
cause you to miss out on some stuff. Wow, yeah.
Yeah. I've had to bite my tongue sometimes when I wanted to speak on certain things because I'd be like, yeah, that's not good for business.
Waiting instead of forcing momentum.
Sometimes it's good to wait. Sometimes. Sometimes it's good to wait. It just depends on the situation. Cause some things you just need to jump out there.
Right. Yeah. Some things you won't have all of the answers or even know the next step
Right.
like we were talking about before. Just press support, I guess, anyway, on that one.
Right.
So we were talking about you had built your team and you were flying to
Mhm.
different events, I
Yeah.
assume. And then the foundation kind of got rocked when the photographer left. So when you were coming out of that season, something shifted. How would you say the way you lead now is different from how you started?
Ooh, I had to learn in that season. I've since forgiven that person because me and that person are now pretty cool. But in that moment, I learned to just watch how I maneuver with people. Just because somebody say they're your friend, or you feel like y'all cool and y'all got a vibe and all that stuff, does not mean that people will not flip on you within a matter of seconds. Opportunities will make people change on you. So I learned to kind of just be a little bit more guarded because I'm a Southern girl and we're, in the South, we so friendly.
Mhm.
We speak to everybody. Nobody's a stranger to us. And I had to learn when you're doing business, you got to be a little bit more guarded. You can't just be out there just trusting in everybody. So I've learned to just watch it, Tanisha, kind of protect yourself a little bit when you're doing business.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I think that sometimes when you're in that moment, it's hard to think about, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is just a part of my story that it had to play out this way. But I was
Right.
having a conversation last week where I was talking about this person that really, really hurt me. When I never thought that the
Mm,
relationship would have shifted the way it did. But looking back,
yeah.
had that relationship not shifted, then I would not
Mhm.
have continued to pursue the things that I was pursuing, not because I was so
Right.
dependent on that relationship. And so when it was no longer there, and the reason that it wasn't there was because I was pursuing things, I have
Mhm.
to now, I don't see them as a villain in the story anymore. I see them as more like a catalyst for me to keep
Yeah.
moving forward to see what the next thing was gonna be.
Right.
What boundaries had to come into play so you could sustain this work?
I started mainly just making sure, like, just don't let everybody in so easily, because I don't think I even had, it's crazy to say that, but I'm learning even in my 40s now to set boundaries with a lot of people because I'll just be like, okay, all right, okay, yeah, sure. But you have to set boundaries. Even if that person is like a close friend or whatever, you still gotta have your boundaries to say no and stand your ground on things that you will and will not accept. So you
Yeah,
definitely have to,
I have
stick to your boundaries.
a separation of church and state, I would say, because I have my
Mhm.
business friends that I could talk to about business stuff, and then I have friends that we never discuss that, but I need that where I can just be Arnitris and I can just,
Yeah.
unwind. And so I love that balance. And in the beginning,
Yes.
I was like you, thinking that everybody that came as business, we were
Mhm.
friends. Some people just lurking
Yes.
around so they can see what's going on and on the
Mm.
back end so they can replicate it. And
Yeah.
that I've had that, and it happened to me several times. I would be so heartbroken.
Yes.
And then I had to say, wait a minute. Everybody, first of all, everybody is not like you. Everybody is not a
That's
Southern
right.
girl. And I'm a Southern girl too. Everybody is not just open and honest about what their intentions
Yes.
are. And
That's
so
so
once
true.
you I have to remind myself this is business, it's not personal. The person is personal,
Yes.
so it works for me to keep those things separate. I think that
Separate.
sometimes
Definitely.
I was talking about how people come, as if they're friends, but they really need the
Ooh,
services that you need,
girl.
that you offer, right? Like, I'm coming as a
Yes.
friend, but I really need to talk about this relationship issue that I have. So they really need
Mhm.
an invoice. And by the time you realize what's going on, it's like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
start counting up the cost of, you know,
Yeah.
it's definitely a roller coaster. It's not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that.
It's very true. I like that you brought that up because I've had people to do that. They'll get close to you. They're reaching out to you just so they can get you to help them with something or do something for free. I've had people reach out. Can you show me how you started your podcast? Can you teach me how to do this? Can you show me how to do a magazine design? And I was like, I have to start saying, you know what? Look, you're gonna have to book a consultation with me.
You wanna
Like,
do a
this is my fee.
consultation because
Right.
am I supposed to just give away the stuff, all of those sleepless
Right.
nights, all of the courses that
Right.
the coaches that I've had, I'm just supposed to give it to
Right.
you for free? And it's not like, I don't know, for me, the people that have approached me in that way, they never even supported anything that I did. They sat back
Mm,
and watched it to a certain level,
see,
and Oh, now I can ask her. Oh, now she has these connections. Oh,
Mhm.
now she's in front of this audience. It's like,
Yeah.
no, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's it
Those
is
be the
it's
ones, like you
hard.
said, those are the ones
Yeah.
that are not supporting anything you're doing. They just sitting back looking for that open door opportunity to slip in.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I did a story a couple of days ago where I was talking about the silence is deafening because,
Mhm.
some of my so-called friends have gone radio silent. No comment. Like
Mhm.
they'll come I'm paying attention to this type of stuff that they'll comment on.
Mhm.
Nothing about the show, nothing about my offerings, but if I post something silly, then you comment like, "Oh, so that means that you
Ooh.
seeing the post. You're just being
Yeah.
selective about what it is that you're commenting on."
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
out.
They definitely
Mhm.
they definitely see what you're doing. I'll run into people and cause on social media act like they don't see nothing. Then when they see you in person, they're like, "Oh, I see you. I saw you do this. I saw you do that." And it's like, well, why aren't you saying it? Why aren't you
Why
supportive?
don't you quit? Because commenting is free, sharing is free,
Mhm.
liking or hearting
Free.
something doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me get boosted up in the algorithm. I'll never understand that. I
Mhm.
think that support doesn't always come in the form of money, and everybody doesn't
Yes.
understand that either. Because there were
Right.
times I used to like buy things that I didn't even need just because in the name of supporting somebody, but it
Ooh,
wasn't
come on.
reciprocated. And so now it's like
Yes,
when I
I've
do it,
done that.
I don't do it with the expectation of reciprocation. I just do it
Mhm.
out of the goodness of my heart. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
I've done the same
Business
thing.
that
I've done the same
you had
thing.
the same thing happen.
Yeah, I've done the
Wow.
same thing. I've went to people's businesses and I'll just support their business all the time, like competitive, coming in and supporting, buying products, buying stuff from them. And then when it comes to my business, I don't see no kind of support. They don't say, "Hey, Tanisha, how can I purchase a copy of your magazine to show my support?" Or "How can I purchase one of your books to show you my support since you're always supporting me?" They don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. And like I said, it doesn't always even have to come in the form of money. It could be, hey, Tanisha,
Mhm.
I think you should know this person. This person will be good for you to know.
Mhm.
But I don't, it's just that business bestie thing, it just hasn't worked out for me.
Mhm.
It hasn't
Yeah.
worked out for
Yeah.
me. It just hasn't been, where both people are mutually helping each other. It would be
Yeah.
nice. I think that a lot of us would be much further
Yeah.
along if we had that
Yeah.
sisterhood where we could say, because I
Yes.
feel like in our network, there should be no lack. Like there should have not have been an
Yeah.
issue with you getting your magazine off of the
Right.
ground because people in your network should have said, "Okay, I believe in this. Here's $1,000. I believe in this. Who $1,000? Okay,
Ooh,
I believe in this.
girl.
You should know this investor. You should know this person, or you should
Mhm.
apply for this grant because that could help you." But
Yeah.
sometimes you just kind of gatekeep information. But all
Yes.
of us could be so much further along if we kind of
Come on.
pooled our resources. And I would love to see that happen. I really would love to see that happen.
You preaching right now. That
I'm
is
not
the
trying, but
truth.
that just really did something in my spirit because 'cause I'm like,
Mhm.
where
Girl.
are the masterminds where we come together and we say, "Okay, so
Yeah.
I got media on lock, you got marketing and branding on lock, you got,
Mhm.
funding on lock, and let's pool together so that everybody gets what they need." I would love to see that happen. So, if you're watching this episode,
Sadly,
you're interested in that, reach out, let me know.
yeah.
But you said sadly what?
Sadly, in our with amongst us people of color, it's just that bond that we had that you saw during like the civil rights movements where everyone would come together and bond together when we had Black Wall Street and things like that. Today, it's like everybody's just for themselves, or if they see you getting ahead or they see a break about to happen in your life, it's like, mm-mm, I'm not gonna support because they feel like you're gonna get ahead of them. But why would you think like that? You know what I'm saying? You should be happy to support your fellow sister or brother that's doing something good, because in the end, everybody reaps a reward, you know. We
Everybody
all reap a
benefits.
reward from it. Yep,
Well, is there
girl.
anything you had to I could go on and on. It's so heavy on me because I think
It
about
is.
it a lot. I think about, I'm in the process now in the season now where I'm grieving relationships that I feel like could have benefited from this partnership.
Yes.
But, they started to move funny, and so I had to, you kinda I wouldn't say release them, but I limited their access to me.
Yeah.
And I guess that was just part of the story, it had to happen, but it still makes me feel sad because I feel like we just do better when we come together.
Yeah.
We'll go farther, faster when we can come together.
Yeah.
But,
It's
that's how it is.
sad because I have ideas for films. I love movies, so I got some ideas. I haven't gotten into screenwriting, but I have some really dope ideas for some movies. And the friends that I thought were friends that have kind of distanced themselves, some of them I know they are amazing at video, shooting films and everything. And you're like, "Man, if we could have just worked it out, do you know how much further we could have been? Do you know where you could have been in your life or what stage I could have been in my life, like, if we had just worked it out?" And so it's
Yeah.
sad when you have to just, like, release them, like the little trending song said, "Release them." Sometimes you just gotta
Yeah.
release them.
Yeah. And I guess all of
Yeah.
that is just a part of the story too, but then I guess it depends on the way that that break happened. There's still a
Mhm.
chance that it could come around.
Yeah,
But it's kinda hard to not kinda
it
grieve
is.
that. It's hard to grieve, I feel
Uh,
like when relationships break down like that, it's like you're grieving a death
yeah,
because you're grieving
yeah,
what you thought was going to be, you're
right,
grieving the person that you thought you knew, and then you see this whole it's like, "Wow, who is this person? I didn't even know that you had
right,
that in you,"
right.
but,
Come on.
yeah. And
Yes.
that's heartbreaking for me. It's like, wow, I had a situation last week where I learned something, and it was like, my heart was really broken. Like, really? You have the capacity to do that? Wow.
Yeah, people will
All
blow
this
your
time,
mind.
you being a chameleon, I'm thinking you one thing and you something else. And I feel like everybody should just be who you are. Be who you are so that
Yes.
I can decide
Yes.
how I'm going to deal
Yes.
with you. Or if I'm
Yes.
going to deal with you. We don't have to put
Yeah.
on airs. So
Yeah. You need more genuine we need more genuine people.
absolutely.
Because people really they be putting on a whole facade. Like it's crazy. Even in the relationships, I just got out of a relationship in June of last year. And sometimes you just never know. You're going into it and you're being yourself and you're thinking that this person is their self. Or they tell you I'm nothing like this person or that person, and then you find out they're everything that
Everything.
So people are amazing.
They really, really are.
Yeah.
Was there anything you had to release, an identity, an expectation, or a way of operating in order to keep growing?
One thing that I'm still working on, but I'm a PK, so I had to get over people pleasing. That's still it's very little now, but I had to get over people pleasing because, when you're growing up in the church, you're taught that everything you do, you're doing it for God, you know.
Mhm.
And that means sometimes your talent, your gifts, things that you would be getting paid for somewhere else, the church is telling you you're doing it for
The
God.
church will
So,
reward it.
yeah. So you're just trying to do it to make everybody happy. You're coming to the Sunday service sometimes to make people happy, even if you don't feel like being there. It's just that people pleasing. So even in business, where I would want to really tell people how I felt, I'd be like, I don't. Let me not say that, But definitely getting over people pleasing. And in media and this kind of work that we do, you have got to get over people pleasing because people will they will run circles around you.
They will
So
run
yeah,
over
that's
you.
one
I've
thing.
had some people and I'm like, I work hard on what my process is and all of that, and they're telling me, okay, I can do this, this, this. Wait a minute, we got a whole process here that we're not going to
Mhm.
change. If you want to be a part of it, this is how it's going to have to
Yes.
go because I have to. It's not just even me. I'm in partnership with
Mhm.
a whole other brand, so everything we do
Yeah.
is going to be a reflection of them as well.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's and sometimes I kinda second guess myself, And I was having a conversation with Honey last week. He was like, "No, I think you handled that correctly because that's a
Yeah.
reflection on you." So,
Yeah.
and again, I'm a pre-K as well, so I know
Mhm.
how that mask that we put on and kind of hide
Mhm.
our true selves, and it's like we don't even
Yeah.
have you're not even given the space to have very human emotions,
Right.
or reactions or responses.
Right.
And,
Mhm.
over time, that's it's so heavy over time. It
It
took me a
is
long time to get
very
over that because it's like, I don't think that God is pleased because you're
right.
suppressing the very He gave you those emotions
Yeah.
for a reason. That doesn't mean that it gives you license to act on them, but you have them for a
Right.
reason. You shouldn't be suppressing them. So, I definitely
Mhm.
understand that people pleasing part in that mask that you have to sometimes
Mhm.
put on because you're under a
Yeah.
magnifying glass and everything that you do is just
Yeah.
amplified. you know it's not an easy life, and for me, my mom didn't become a minister until I was grown. So I was grown and
Mm.
I was married by the time,
Yeah.
but it still impacted me in ways, and just
Yeah.
because we were so active in the church growing up, like
Mhm.
I feel like I was in the church every time the doors are open, we were there for
Yes.
Sunday school,
Yes.
for Bible study, for choir
Yeah.
practice, for regular Sunday
Yes.
service, and then if you
Woo.
had
My
other
goodness.
service, like, all the just like, "Oh my god." And so now
Yeah.
it's funny because, when I really got intentional about the type of man that I wanted to be with, I mean, I wanted
Mhm.
a man that was active in church, and,
Yeah.
but I didn't think about the cost of that on the back end because that means he's
Yeah.
always at the church. It's like I've had conversations
Always.
with him like, "You going to the church again? Like, it's not the building
Yeah.
is not gonna fall down if you don't go to one service. Like, you're
Yeah.
tired, you're not
Yeah.
feeling well, but that's the trade-off. I asked for somebody, and that also meant that, like, he couldn't worship with me because he's in ministry, he's busy. So,
Yeah.
that's kind of the trade-off that you ask for. I think that, when I talk to women about the type of men that they want, like, you
Yeah.
need to think about the flip side of that. You want a man has all this money, that means he's not gonna be having time to be sitting up snuggling and Netflix and
That's
chilling with
true.
you because he's
That's
working.
true.
So that's the
Yeah.
trade-off. You have to think about both sides of that. So
I
when you
like
look back
that. You
on your
do.
journey, what you say?
Oh, no, I was saying I like that you really do have to think about what you're praying and asking God for in a man. Yeah.
You absolutely do. When you look back on your journey so far, what makes sense now that didn't then?
That's a good question. What makes sense now? What makes sense now is just knowing that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm glad that I stepped out on faith. Prior to getting into writing at a magazine and everything, I was doing armed security. And I actually have a
Oh,
bachelor's
wow.
degree in criminal justice. So I was doing armed security and I was going to be a police officer. Me and a friend of mine, who had inspired me to join the police department. So I was going to just do that. I really had just started putting my writing, my passion for writing on the back end because I was having people telling me that, well, what's going to pay the bills? Like, are you going to make money from writing and all that stuff? And so I was like, okay, well, let me do something that's going to pay the bills. And so I was doing armed security for some years. And when a contract shifted and I took a huge pay cut, I ended up losing
Yeah.
my apartment. I lost my brand new car. I lost everything I had worked so hard to work for to achieve. And so when I stepped out on faith with the writing, I was in a different place in my life that's at that moment where I was just like, okay, God, you put this in me. I'm going to just trust you. I'm going to just go forth. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I'm just going to step out, and it just showed me like, Tanisha, it's always been within you, your writing it's always been in you, don't let nobody make you doubt what God put in you because that's what was happening. People were making me doubt, you're not going to make it financially. You're going to be able to take care of your child. At the time I only had one. And it's like, you're not going to be able to take care of your child and all this stuff. God showed me during that time that it's in you. It's in you. We always got it in us. We just got to believe in ourselves.
And then that leads right into my, and I think you probably answered my next question was, what do you know about yourself now as a woman and as a leader
Mhm.
that you didn't know at the beginning? Is it that it was
Yeah,
already in you? Yeah,
already in you. Yeah. I
I
had
love that.
a joke I put out on social media some years ago, and I said everybody wants to be a millionaire, but do you know that what it takes to be a millionaire is already in you? Like you already have $1 million
We're born with it.
business, a
We're
million
literally
dollar
born with, yeah,
idea. It's already in
yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. If you had to name what keeps you grounded when things get hard, what would that
My children, I have two beautiful
be?
girls, and you know, when I wanna quit, when I wanna give up, I remember they're watching me. I have a 3-year-old and a 17-year-old who's about to be 18 in March, and my 3-year-old she'll be 4 in May.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and so they keep me going, you know, because 'cause I'm like, I can't stop because I'm telling them what they can be in life and what they can do in life, so they can't see mama just quit. Not to say that I'm not transparent with them, because when it's rough, I let them know,
Yeah,
like,
I think
"Mama's
that
having a bad day."
yeah,
I'm like,
we
"Mom's having a
kinda
bad day.
shield them
This is."
sometimes from that hard
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
but they need to know that,
Yeah. It's
it's
not
not
peachy.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
and
daughter done
we
seen
need
me
to be honest
sometimes.
about that.
Yeah. My daughter has seen me get in moments where I've had to cry in the car. I was like, "'Cause this is
Yeah,
life." Does like they said, life be life,
it's
and
like
sometimes it can be a bit much. But yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it
Yes.
does. So as we're rounding up, I want you to tell people what you're working on, how they can find
Mhm.
you online, and if there's anything that you need, how they can support you.
The next big thing we have coming up is our music and arts issue. So I'm going to be looking for independent artists, independent filmmakers, a lot of musicians, artists. Where do you paint that are in the black and brown community? I'm looking for you to be featured in that publication. And you can reach me by email at info@femimagazine.com. They can also follow FEMI Magazine on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and then they can follow me at Tanisha D. Davis. And feel free to always DM me. You know, if it's a story idea you have, you can DM me. I'll look it over. And that's how you can keep up with me.
I love that. I have had an idea for a magazine article for a couple of years ago, like a love letter to Atlanta, because it's a city that
Mhm.
that healed my heart. And two times I
Yeah.
came to Atlanta with a broken heart, and like the city and
Yeah.
the music, like there's something certain music that comes. You know how music comes on and you're
Yeah.
instantly back in
Yeah.
that place that you were in, and that Atlanta has really been a safe space for me and
Yeah.
heal my
Yeah.
heart on 2 occasions. But I think that might be a good addition for your
Yeah.
music addition, so let me
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I've had that on my heart for a couple of years, just never pitched it. But, I
We
wanna
can make
thank you
that
for your
happen.
honesty. You can make that okay, cool.
Yeah.
I wanna thank you for your honesty and for trusting us. I really appreciate you sitting with me today. Is there anything else that you wanna, some last words for the people?
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on your show. I appreciate it. Last words to all who are watching is just keep going. Don't quit. You never know when your moment is gonna be. You never know when it's gonna happen for you. So just keep going. Don't stop. Don't let anybody that's got a voice, don't let them try to, steer you away from your dreams and your goals because it's already in you. You got it.
Right, it's already in you. I love it. Famous words from the Tanisha D. Davis. Thank you for
I keep thinking about something that came up in that conversation. How much of what we commit starts long before there's anything to show for it. I'm realizing that some decisions don't wait for proof. They come from a quiet knowing, the kind you don't always know how to explain, but you still move from it anyway. And I think a lot of us carry that. We just don't always talk about how lonely that space can feel. What stayed with me was how often meeting,
not momentum, is what actually carries us. There's a difference between being excited about something and being anchored in it. Excitement fades, but meaning has weight. I also found myself thinking about effort, about how easy it is to keep giving when something matters to you, and how long it can take to notice when that giving starts to cost you more than you expected. There is a moment when you realize the energy isn't being met, and it doesn't come with drama, it comes quietly. That part felt familiar. I'm also sitting with the idea of outgrowing the version of yourself who started something, whether it's a project, a season, or a relationship. There's grief in that, but there's also relief because holding on too tightly to who you were can make it harder to honor who you're becoming. And maybe the biggest thing I'm reflecting on is restraint, the choices we don't make, the things we don't reach for, even when we could, because not because they're wrong, but because they don't serve what we're trying to build long term. I think that's what maturity looks like for me right now. Learning how to pause, learning how to choose slowly, learning how to trust what's meant to last doesn't need to be rushed.